if Russia split tomorrow, who would have the launch codes? Not the oil, not the economy, the nuclear weapons. Yes, nuclear weapons. Because Russia doesn't just have nuclear weapons, it has the largest nuclear arsenal on Earth. That's scary as heck. And nuclear weapons don't divide cleanly. Let's talk about the chain of command. Right now, nuclear authority in Russia is centralized. The president, currently Vladimir Putin, what a douche, holds the ultimate launch authority. But it is not a single button system. Russia operates a layered command structure involving the president, the minister of defense, the chief of the general staff. Strategic rocket forces manage land-based ICMs. The Navy controls ballistic missile submarines. Long-range aviation handles nuclear-capable bombers. That's a mouthful. Order moves through encrypted systems, including what Western analysts often refer to as the nuclear briefcase protocols. In theory, no regional governor can independently launch a strategic weapon.
Here's the real danger. Nuclear weapons don't split neatly when countries do.
In theory. But what happens if the federal state fractures? Authority becomes ambiguous overnight, and ambiguity is dangerous in nuclear doctrine. Nuclear weapons are not all in one vault. They are dispersed. Silos across western and central Russia, submarines based in the North and Pacific, storage locations in multiple federal districts. Many are positioned deep inside regions that, in our Part 1 model, would become separate states. Western Siberia, the Far East, parts of European Russia. If those regions declared independence, the missiles don't move. The silos don't relocate. They stay where they are. Well, fixed things that don't move usually do. Now imagine 5 governments claiming legitimacy. Who owns the missile fields? Who controls the maintenance crews? Who holds the authorization codes? When seen something like this before, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Nuclear weapons were suddenly located in Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan. For a brief moment, multiple newly independent countries technically possessed nuclear arsenals. Yes, and I don't know about Belarus or Kazakhstan, but I know that Ukraine, after we gave them the promise that we would protect them, and of course, obviously, if you know the war, we didn't, is why they gave up their nuclear weapons after the collapse, because Ukraine wanted to keep them in case Russia attacked them. The resolution required intense diplomacy, security, guarantees, and negotiated transfers of warheads back to Moscow. Like I said, we, the United States, promised Ukraine, and then when Russia invaded, we said, oops, sorry, you gotta do it yourself. It worked, but only because command authority remained centralized long enough to manage the transition. Now imagine a faster collapse, or a contested one. Scenario 1. Centralized continuity. Russia retains regionalized authority. All other breakaway states agree to transfer or lease nuclear assets to the central successor state. Yeah, that's not going to happen. This is the least chaotic outcome. very likely. Markets will stabilize faster. Global nuclear posture remains predictable. And scenario number 2, shared custody. Multiple new states inherit nuclear weapons within their territory. Each claims defensive legitimacy. Even if one intends aggression, deterrence multiplies. Instead of one nuclear rival, the world now faces several smaller, potentially unstable ones. This dramatically increases miscalculation risk. Scenario 3, fragmented command. Regional military commanders refuse orders. Wow, there's a novel concept. Communication lines degrade. Authentication systems are contested. In nuclear strategy, uncertainty itself becomes destabilizing. Other powers may raise alert levels, and once nuclear alert levels rise, mistakes become more likely. Here's the part most people don't think about. Nuclear weapons require consistent maintenance. They are not permanent statutes. Warheads must be serviced, materials degrade. Security requires funding, stability, and trained personnel. If a new state inherits weapons but lacks stable revenue, security risks increase, not because of intent, but because of capacity. Now, how would other powers react? The United States would likely push for rapid consolidation under a single recognized authority. NATO would heighten readiness. China would closely monitor Far Eastern assets near its borders. Financial markets would spike on defense and energy volatility. Diplomatic channels would operate non-stop, or I would hope so, because the primary global objective would be simple: prevent loose nukes. It's possible, if fragmentation were negotiated rather than violent, if military leadership stayed unified during transition, if international observers helped secure facilities, then consolidation could resemble the early 1990s. But that requires cooperation between Washington and Moscow. Today's geopolitical environment is far more adversarial. Trust is lower. Sanctions are deeper. Communication lines are thinner. That changes the equation. Nuclear weapons aren't just weapons. They're systems of trust. Trust in command, trust in communications, trust that no one panics. When a centralized nuclear state fractures, trust becomes the scariest resource. And in nuclear strategy, scarcity of trust is more dangerous than scarcity of weapons. So if Russia splits into 5 nations, the biggest question wouldn't be oil or GDP or borders. It would be this: who does the world trust with the codes, and how far that trust be built before uncertainty builds faster? Because nuclear weapons don't wait for political certainty. They demand it. And with that, I'm going to leave you with, and it's Scott, 2028.